Hey guys, this is Kristin, and today I thought I'd share with you something that I have been absolutely obsessed with lately, and that is watercolor bubbles. If you follow my Instagram feed, this is all you've seen lately for about a week on end. Watercolor bubbles, different sizes, different shapes, but they all share the same thing, and that is they're a play of pencil and watercolor moving together to create these little pockets of color, which are so much fun to make and play with. And honestly, I love color as much as the next girl. As a matter of fact, I hosted a 5-year color event called the Summer of Color, and I learned so much that I never knew just by playing with the way that the pigments float together. So it's really fun, but it's also really an education in color. At least it was for me. So because I've been documenting this process, a lot of people have asked how in the world I've been accomplishing these bubbles. When you see how easy it is, I mean, you can probably already see it's just a circle in watercolor. But because I've been doing so many of them, I do have a few tips that I can share with you that I've discovered along the way. So let me start now by saying I'm using a watercolor brush pen. I like the fact that I can take it with me, but also that if I have a towel here and wipe the brush off between colors, that it gives me the ability to control the amount of water that I'm working with. For the movement, you'll want to add water, which you'll see me do a little later. But for dipping back in and creating color combinations, you might want to have less water. And using this kind of brush, different nibs, and wiping it off with towel in between will allow you to go in with a damp as opposed to a wet brush. So obviously you don't have to use a stencil to create these, but I started by using a stencil and a pencil. So I'll avoid the obvious jokes there. But yes, I just penciled a mark using the stencil, and I created my own little pattern here with it. And this is a Crafter's Workshop stencil, so I did that. I also used this Crafter's Workshop stencil for this guy, the only non-bubble like watercolor pieces I have in the journal so far. And then this first page was created with a discarded piece of game board from one of my daughter's games. We won't throw that away. That's a great stencil. And then they got bigger. The obsession grew, and so did the bubbles. So when the bubbles got bigger, they were formed with this school stencil, also stolen from my daughter. I do give them back, sometimes. So let me just share with you, because I now want to make different kinds of bubbles and stencils. I created my own stencil with a wood burning tool. So I will be using that on this page with you, and we can do them together. So I hope that you'll enjoy, and do try them out. They are so much fun, and if nothing else, an incredible lesson in the play of color. Okay, so you've seen me do a few bubbles. A few little tips is that it's really nice to go in with a brush again that you can kind of control the amount of water you have. So use your little blotter so that you can control that water. And for a bubble, again, you'll just start by laying down color. If you want the color to move, you can squeeze so that the brush will give you more water. This is fun if you want them to move and wiggle into each other. If you want to remove some of the color, what I do is either I'm not pressing the brush, I'm just using the fibers of the brush now to pull up some of that color. And you see how I kind of moved it? I bossed it around a little bit. I know you can't boss around watercolors, but you can try. And then I'll take, let's try a brighter color, a different color then, and determine whether or not I want it to rest next to each other. If so, I'll probably allow this to dry a little bit, or if I want them to move and dance together. If that's the case, let me try this color, then I'm going to go in to the bubble, and the graphite does give you a tiny little border. It really, really does. So I'm going to go into the bubble. I'm now pressing the canister, plastic area thing. There's a technical term for you. Plastic area part of the pen. There you go. I'm pressing that and adding or dispensing more water by doing so. So that again, I have two colors within my bubble that can then move when I move my page. All I'm doing is moving my page. That can now sit. That can now sit, and when it's dried, it'll give you some really interesting shapes like this guy here. I love this one so far. Let's see, where'd you go? Oh, hi. That one's my favorite so far. Because when the colors dry and you have more than one together, they create their own combinations and their own little patterns, which you, in this case, cannot control. And I like that. And here these guys are moving still. So in this case, I'll let this guy dry and then come back and add more layers, just like anything else. They're successful or colorful because they have more and more layers and colors added to them. So that's how you get all the different variety within your bubbles.